Welcome back to Bible Quizzes. We have another 80 questions for you guys today on the book of Exodus. Let's get started. Round 1, true or false? Each question is worth 1 point. Question 1, the book of Exodus is the third book of the Old Testament. False. Exodus 1:1. These are the names of the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his family. 2. Moses' mother hid him in a basket among the reeds of the Amazon River. False. Exodus 2:3. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed a child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. 3. The burning bush spoke to Moses, commanding him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. True. Exodus 3:2-3. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. 4. Pharaoh's wife found Moses among the reeds and raised him as her own son. False. Exodus 2:5-10. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the river bank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying and she felt sorry for him. This is one of the Hebrew babies, she said. 5. The 10 plagues were a series of catastrophes sent by Moses to punish Pharaoh for not letting the Israelites go. False. Exodus 7:1-2. Then the Lord said to Moses, See, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. You are to say everything I command you, and your brother Aaron is to tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of his country. 6. The first plague was turning water into blood. True. Exodus 7:20. Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded. He raised his staff in the presence of Pharaoh and his officials and struck the water of the Nile, and all the water was changed into blood. 7. The Israelites crossed the Red Sea on dry land. True. Exodus 14:22. And the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. 8. Moses received the 10 Commandments on Mount Golgotha. False. Exodus 19:1. On the first day of the third month after the Israelites left Egypt, on that very day they came to the desert of Sinai. 9. Aaron, Moses' brother, built the golden calf for the Israelites to worship. True. Exodus 32:1. When the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, Come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him. 10. Moses didn't intercede with God to spare the Israelites after they worshiped the golden calf. False. Exodus 32:11. But Moses sought the favor of the Lord his God. Lord, he said, why should your anger burn against your people, whom you brought out of Egypt with great power and a mighty hand? 11. The Israelites wandered in the wilderness for 30 years. False. Exodus 16:35. The Israelites ate manna 40 years until they came to a land that was settled. They ate manna until they reached the border of Canaan. 12. The Ark of the Covenant contained the tablets of the Ten Commandments. True. Exodus 25:16. Then put in the ark of the tablets of the covenant law which I will give you. 13. Moses' mother Miriam led the Israelites in worship after crossing the Red Sea. False. Exodus 15:20. Then Miriam the prophet, Aaron's sister, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her with timbrels and dancing. 14. Moses' father-in-law was named Jethro. True. Exodus 3:1. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. 15. Moses' rod turned into a worm then when he threw it on the ground. False. Exodus 4:3. The Lord said, "Throw it on the ground." Moses threw it on the ground and it became a snake, and he ran from it. 16. The Israelites made bricks without straw while they were in Egypt. True. Exodus 5:7-8. You are no longer to supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them go and gather their own straw, but require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. They are lazy. That is why they are crying out, "Let us go and sacrifice to our God." 17. God appeared to Moses as a pillar of fire at day and a pillar of cloud during the night. False. Exodus 13:21-22. By day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. 18. Moses' brother Aaron became the first high priest of Israel. True. Exodus 28:1. Have Aaron your brother brought to you from among the Israelites, along with his sons Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar, so they may serve me as priests. 19. The Israelites were instructed to eat unleavened bread during the feast of Passover. True. Exodus 12:8. That same night they are to eat meat roasted over the fire, along with bitter herbs and bread made without yeast. 20. Moses was a direct descendant of Abraham. Round 2. Multiple choice. Every question is worth 2 points. 21. Who was the father of Moses? Amram, Pharaoh, Aaron, or Jethro? Amram. Exodus 6:20. Amram married his father's sister Jochebed, who bore him Aaron and Moses. Amram lived 137 years. 22. What was the name of Moses' wife? Rachel, Zipporah, Miriam, or Leah? Zipporah. Exodus 2:21. Moses agreed to stay with the man who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. 23. How did Moses receive the Ten Commandments? Spoken directly by God, given by an angel, written on stone tablets by God, or found them in a cave? Written on stone tablets by God. Exodus 31:18. When the Lord finished speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, he gave him the 2 tablets of the covenant law, the tablets of stone inscribed by the finger of God. 24. Who was Moses' brother? Joshua, Caleb, Aaron, or Miriam? Aaron. Exodus 7:7. Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. 25. What was the first plague that God sent upon Egypt? Locusts, blood, darkness, or frogs? Blood. Exodus 7:17. This is what the Lord says, "By this you will know that I am the Lord. With the staff that is in my hand I will strike the water of the Nile, and it will be changed into blood." 26. How many years did the Israelites spend in Egypt? 200, 400, 430, or 40 years? "430 years." Exodus 12:40-41. Now the length of the time the Israelite people lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of the 430 years, to the very day, all the Lord's divisions left Egypt. 27. What did Moses do to the waters of the Red Sea? Parted them, turned them into blood, made them boil, or walked on them? Parted them. Exodus 14:21. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided. 28. What did the Israelites complain about in the wilderness, leading to God providing manna? Lack of water, lack of meat, lack of bread, or lack of shelter? Lack of bread. Exodus 16:2-3. In the desert, the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted, but you have brought us out into the desert to starve this entire assembly to death." 29. What did God instruct Moses to do with the staff to initiate the plagues upon Egypt? Throw it into the Nile, strike the ground, raise it in the air, or point it toward the sky? Throw it into the Nile. Exodus 7:15. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he gets out to the river. Confront him on the bank of the Nile and take it in your hand and the staff that was changed into a snake. 30. Who was Moses' mother? Jochebed, Miriam, Zipporah, or Pharaoh's daughter? Jochebed. Exodus 6:20. Amram took his wife Jochebed, his father's sister, and she bore him Aaron and Moses. What was the final plague that led Pharaoh to release the Israelites? Death of the firstborn, hailstorm, darkness, or locusts? Death of the firstborn. Exodus 12:29. At midnight the Lord struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on the throne to the firstborn of the prisoner who was in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all the livestock as well. 32. What did Moses do when he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew? Killed the Egyptian, reported to Pharaoh, ignored it, or fled to Midian? Killed the Egyptian. Exodus 2:12. Looking this way and that and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. 33. Who led the Israelites while Moses was on Mount Sinai receiving the 10 Commandments? Aaron, Miriam, Joshua, or Caleb? Aaron, Exodus 32:1. When the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, "Come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." 34. What did Moses use to strike the rock to bring forth water in the wilderness? His staff, his hand, his foot, or his sword? His staff. Exodus 17:5. The Lord answered Moses, "Go out in front of the people, take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go." 35. How did Moses' mother hide him after he was born? Placed him in a basket, built a hidden room in her house, sent him to live with relatives, or disguised him as a girl? Placed him in a basket. Exodus 2:3-4. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it in among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. 36. How did God appear to Moses initially at the burning bush? As a voice, a bright light, a pillar of fire, or an angel? An angel. Exodus 3:2-4. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in the flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. 37. Who accompanied Moses when he went up to Mount Sinai to receive the 10 Commandments? Aaron, Joshua, Miriam, or Caleb? Joshua. Exodus 24:13. Then Moses set out with Joshua his aide, and Moses went up the mountain of God. 38. What was the first commandment given to Moses at the burning bush? Remove his sandals, hide his face, take off his robe, or stand still? Remove his sandals. Exodus 3:5. Do not come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. How did Moses react when God asked him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt? Reluctant, angry, eager, or confused? Reluctant. Exodus 3:11-12. But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" 40. What did God provide the Israelites to eat in the wilderness besides manna? Bread, quails, fish, or fruits? Quails. Exodus 16:12. I have heard the grumbling of the Israelites. Tell them, at twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. 41. Which tribe of Israel did Moses come from? Levi, Benjamin, Judah, or Ephraim? Levi. Exodus 2:1-2. Now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. 42. What was the name of Moses' first son? Eleazar, Abihu, Gershom, or Bezalel? Gershom. Exodus 2:22. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, I have become a foreigner in a foreign land. 43. How many years did Moses spend in Midian before returning to Egypt? 20 years, 40 years, 30 years, or 50 years? "40 years. Exodus 2:23. During that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. 44. What was the name of the mountain where Moses met Jethro, his future father-in-law? Mount Horeb, Mount Moriah, Mount Nebo, or Mount Sinai? Mount Horeb, Exodus 3:1. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. 45. What was the profession of Moses' father-in-law? Potter, shepherd, carpenter, or merchant? Shepherd, Exodus 3:1. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. 46. How many times did Moses strike the rock to bring water in the wilderness? 1, 3, 2, or 5? 2. Exodus 17:5-6. The Lord answered Moses, Go out in front of the people, take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink. So Moses did this in sight of the elders of Israel. 47. Which of the 10 commandments instructs to honor one's father and mother? 1st, 5th, 4th, or 10th? 5th. Exodus 20:12. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. 48. Who was the father of Bezalel, the skilled craftsman for the tabernacle? Hur, Oholiab, Caleb, or Uri? Hur, Exodus 31:2. See, I have chosen Bezalel, son of Uri, the son of Hur of the tribe of Judah. 49. How many sons did Moses have? 1, 3, 2, or 4? 2. Exodus 18:3-4. And her 2 sons, one son was named Gershom, for Moses said, I have become a foreigner in a foreign land, and the other was named Eleazar, for he said, My father's God was my helper, he saved me from the sword of Pharaoh. 50. Which item was not included in the Ark of the Covenant? Tablets of the law, jar of manna, Aaron's staff, or golden lampstand? Golden lampstand. Exodus 25:10-22. Have them make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. 51. What was the name of Moses' second son? Gershom, Bezalel, Eleazar, or Eleazar? Eleazar. Exodus 18:4. And the other was named Eleazar, for he said, My father's God was my helper. He saved me from the sword of Pharaoh. 52. Which animal did God instruct Moses to sacrifice as a part of the Passover ritual? Lamb, goat, ox, or ram? Lamb. Exodus 12:3. Tell the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month each man is to take a lamb for his family, one for each household. 53. Who was the father of the Midianite priest who gave Zipporah to Moses? Reuel, Melchizedek, Jethro, or Hobab? Reuel. Exodus 2:18. When the girls returned to Reuel their father, he asked them, Why have you returned so early today? 54. What did Moses use to cover his face after speaking with God on Mount Sinai? A veil, dust, oil, or a hood? A A veil. Exodus 34:33. When Moses finished speaking to them, he put a veil over his face. 55. What was the name of the sea that God parted for the Israelites to cross on dry ground? Sea of Galilee, Mediterranean Sea, Dead Sea, or Red Sea? Red Sea. Exodus 14:21. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided. 56. Who was the wife of Aaron? Zipporah, Elisheba, Leah, or Rachel? Elisheba. Exodus 6:23. Aaron married Elisheba, daughter of Amminadab, and sister of Nahshon, and she bore him Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. 57. Who was the son of Moses who became a priest? Gershom, Eleazar, Eleazar, or Bezalel? Eleazar. Exodus 18:4. And the other was named Eleazar, for he said, "My father's God was my helper. He saved me from the sword of Pharaoh." 58. What border did the Israelites reach after eating all manna? Canaan, Gaza, Nazareth, or Arab? Canaan. Exodus 16:35. The Israelites ate manna 40 years until they came to a land that was settled. They ate manna until they reached the border of Canaan. 59. Where did the Israelites camp when they first left Egypt after the Passover? Pi Ramses, Etham, Succoth, or Merit? Succoth. Exodus 12:37. The Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Succoth. There were about 600,000 men on foot besides women and children. 60. After crossing the Red Sea, where did the Israelites travel to? Marah, Elim, Rephidim, or Mount Sinai? Elim. Exodus 15:27. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs and 70 palm trees, and they camped there near the water. Round 3. Short answer. Each question is worth 3 points. 61. What was the purpose of the bronze serpent that Moses made? To heal the Israelites from snake bites. Numbers 21:8. The Lord said to Moses, "Make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is bitten can look at it and live." 62. What did God command Moses to do to ensure the Israelites' victory over the Amalekites? Hold up his hands. Exodus 17:11. As long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites were winning, but whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. 63. What was the punishment for breaking the Sabbath in the wilderness? Put to death. Exodus 31:14-15. For 6 days work is to be done, but the seventh day is a day of Sabbath rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day is to be put to death. 64. What did the Israelites use to mark their doorposts during the Passover? The blood of a lamb. Exodus 12:7. Then they are to take some of the blood and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames of the house where they eat the lambs. 65. Who was the Egyptian taskmaster who Moses killed? The Bible does not provide this name. Exodus 2:11-12. One day after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Looking at this way and that and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. 66. What name did God reveal to Moses when he asked about his identity? I am who I am. Exodus 3:13-14. God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to see. I am has sent me to you. 67. What miraculous sign did God show Moses to demonstrate his power? Turning his staff into a snake. Exodus 4:3. The Lord said, throw it on the ground. Moses threw it on the ground and it became a snake, and he ran from it. 68. How did God descend upon Mount Sinai before giving the 10 Commandments to Moses? With thunder, lightning, a thick cloud, and a sound of a trumpet blast. Exodus 19:16. On the morning of the third day there was a thunder and lightning with a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. 69. What is the first commandment of God? You shall not have any other gods before me. Exodus 23. You shall have no other gods before me. 70. What wood was the Ark of the Covenant made of? Acacia wood. Exodus 25:13. Then make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. What happened when Moses finished setting up the tabernacle? The glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Exodus 40:34. Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. 72. What did Moses tell the Israelites when they were trapped between the pursuing Egyptians and the Red Sea? Do not be afraid. Exodus 14:13-14. Moses answered the people, do not be afraid. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again. 73. What were the 3 annual festivals the Israelites were commanded to observe? Festival of Unleavened Bread, Festival of the Harvest, and Festival of Ingathering. Exodus 23:15-16. Celebrate the Festival of Unleavened Bread. For 7 days eat bread made without yeast, as I commanded you. Do this at the appointed time in the month of Aviv, for in that month you came out of Egypt. No one is to appear before me empty-handed. Celebrate the Festival of Harvest with the first fruits of the crops you sow in your field. Celebrate the festival in gathering at the end of the year when you gather your crops from the field. 74. What was the purpose of building the tabernacle? Provide a sanctuary for God to dwell among the Israelites. Exodus 25:8-9. Then have them make a sanctuary for me, and I will dwell among them. Make this tabernacle and all its furnishings exactly like the pattern I will show you. 75. What commandment prohibits making and worshiping graven images? Second commandment, Exodus 24. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on earth beneath, or in the waters below. 76. What item did the high priest wear that contained the Urim and Thummim? breastpiece. Exodus 28:30. Also put the Urim and the Thummim in the breastpiece, so they may be over Aaron's heart whenever he enters the presence of the Lord. Thus Aaron will always bear the means of making decisions for the Israelites over his heart before the Lord. 77. What animals were sacrificed during the consecration of Aaron and his sons as priests? A young bull and 2 rams without defect. Exodus 29:1. This is what you are to do to consecrate them, so they may serve me as priests. Take a young bull and 2 rams without defect. 78. Who are the craftsmen chosen to build the tabernacle? Bezalel and Aholiab. Exodus 36:1. So Bezalel, Aholiab, and every skilled person whom the Lord has given skill and ability to know how to carry out all the work of constructing the sanctuary are to do the work just as the Lord has commanded. 79. What did God promise the Israelites if they obeyed his covenant? They would be his treasured possession, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Exodus 19:5-6. Now if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be You'll be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites. 80. What commandment forbids coveting your neighbor's possessions? The 10th commandment. Exodus 20:17. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. And then that's all the questions we have for today. So remember, tally up your scores and then post them down below. Then share this video with your friends and family to compare your scores against theirs. And we'll see you in the next one.